Hello, my name is Cozy Pierce. I am a food science student at Chapman University, and I will be discussing a solution to a few prominent issues in the U.S. Did you know that in the last few years, Americans have been drinking less milk per capita than ever before? During COVID-19, the Dairy Farmers of America estimated that approximately 3.7 million gallons of milk were dumped each day. For reference, 1 million gallons of water is equivalent to one American football field fully covered with 3 feet of water. Now picture nearly 4 of these. This was due to the closing of schools and restaurants, forcing hundreds of small farms to shut down. Following the pandemic, the demand for milk is continuing to decline. While the production steadily increases, the shift towards plant-based products, health concerns, and environmental concerns of greenhouse gas emissions continuously decreases the demand for milk. With increased production and decreased demand, the milk industry will inevitably have waste. One of the main health concerns of milk is lactose, which is a naturally occurring sugar found in most dairy products. About 36% of the U.S. is unable to digest lactose, and about 68% worldwide. The cause of lactose intolerance is due to a deficiency of lactase, an enzyme that breaks down lactose. Excess milk poses a threat to the environment. Why? Because of whey, which is a protein that makes up 20% of milk. Already, about 50% of whey is recycled from all dairy products. The remainder gets released into the environment and causes eutrophication. Eutrophication is when excess nutrients are released into a body of water and lead to algae growth. This growth leads to acidic conditions and suffocates the wildlife beneath. It also releases carbon dioxide. Kefir can help utilize this excess milk and prevent eutrophication, specifically kefir popsicles. What is kefir? Kefir is the product of kefir grains, which are granules of beneficial bacteria and yeast that ferment dairy by eating the sugar found in milk and whey called lactose. This means that the final product has trace amounts of lactose left over, which allows people with a lactose intolerance to still consume this fermented product. If you are unfamiliar with the process of fermentation, fermentation is defined as the process of breaking down sugars into simpler compounds for energy in non-oxygenated conditions. A few examples of this process in foods include kombucha, kimchi, and yogurt. Each of these contain an abundance of probiotics, just like kefir. Kefir contains probiotics, which is another name for good bacteria and yeasts. In fact, it contains more probiotics than the 3 previous examples combined. One benefit being digestive health. It even has been suggested that kefir can reduce symptoms of lactose intolerance. Kefir has many benefits, but already exists and is slow to grow in the U.S. in comparison to other countries. The average person consumes between 9 to 10 cups of fermented dairy per year in America, whereas in Europe, the average consumption is 28 cups per month. So why popsicles? Well, 90% of the American population consumes frozen desserts, and with a shift towards healthier products, there is a market for this probiotic-packed popsicle. No, freezing does not kill the good bacteria, it only puts them into hibernation. To create this product, we will begin with milk. However, we will need to do further testing on the fat and whey content to see which amounts yield the best consistency. Next, we will apply heat and mix in the sweetener, thickeners, stabilizers, emulsifiers, and/or binding agents, which also require further testing. Each category contains many different options. Next, we homogenize and pasteurize the base. Then we cool the mixture. Following this, we choose between kefir cultures or grains, which are both inoculated at room temperature. Kefir cultures contain only about 7 to 9 bacteria and yeasts. However, this option leads to a more consistent product, which is why they are used in a commercial production. Kefir grains, on the other hand, contain thousands of probiotics but yield inconsistent results and are typically used in smaller scale batches. After we stir the product and experiment with a prebiotic and/or binding agent such as pectin that bind with calcium to thicken the fermenting milk. Next, we filter out the grains. If we use a traditional method, then is the maturation and cooling process. And once we have the plain kefir base, we experiment with different coloring and flavoring agents. And finally, we add the product to popsicle molds and put it in the blast freezer. The next step is sensory evaluation. 2 types will be used, the analytical, which is descriptive, and the hedonic, which is subjective. Examples of analytical tests that will be used include the spider chart and the scored grading test. Here, a higher score closer to the outside of the web has more weight than lower numbers towards the center. This can be used to compare the qualities of multiple samples. The scored grading test assigns a value to the main attributes of popsicle samples. The hedonic test will consist of a 9-point scale from like extremely to dislike extremely. The scale will break down each of the main components. Once each of these attributes reach the desired results, this product can then finally move on to the next phase, which is commercialization.